One issue the former president was asked in Chicago dealt with a case happening here in Springfield of a fatal police-involved shooting by a white sheriff's deputy against a black woman. And the former president providing some reaction, especially in the context of his stance on police immunity. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. So last segment, we talked all the back and forth of the politics of former President Trump being in Chicago, Vice President Kamala Harris's reaction, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's reaction, and then Trump being in Pennsylvania. But back to the conversation he had with the National Association of Black Journalists, he was talking about issues impacting the black communities. Obviously, last segment we talked about his focus on the border, his focus on the economy and inflation out of control. But you had other questions from moderators at the National Association of Black Journalists asking questions about police interactions with the community, in particular when it becomes fatal, like we saw of the case July 6th, Sonya Massey in Springfield, calling about a suspected prowler and two sheriff's deputies arriving on the scene in response, going into the house and then trying to get ID. Massey goes to the kitchen to take a pot of boiling water off. The one officer, Sean Grayston, says that she needs to put that down, and she says, "You afraid of hot water?" And he goes, "I don't want it in my face." She then says, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And then he says, "You better not, I'll shoot you in the face." And then all of a sudden, she gets shot in the face, body camera footage showing that. So it's just a horrible scene, no question. But here's Trump's response to that, especially in the context of his stance on police immunity.
Sonya Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again,
they're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine an innocent mistake?
You go after somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And you know, they have, the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision. And sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So the issue of police immunity could be something discussed as well, especially with that very high-profile case of Sonya Massey here in Springfield getting shot and killed by a sheriff's deputy who's been fired, and a lot of questions about his employment record, having worked in even a correctional facility, and a lot of questions there as to his performance and just overall whether or not there were enough red flags to make sure that this guy was not hired by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. And Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell facing all kinds of calls for him to step down from his elected position. He's not up for re-election until 2026. But ultimately, he's been, pushing back against those calls while saying what happened was horrible and the justice system's working to provide justice for Sonya Massey. So clearly that's happening. But Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, a Democrat from Springfield in the U.S. House, she was in Springfield yesterday at an unrelated event, but she was asked about Campbell's position. And she said that, more needs to be hashed out here, and the investigation continues. Even the U.S. Department of Justice is investigating what happened in Springfield with that shooting. But what about the types of reforms there may be? Because President Biden used this tragedy in Springfield to promote passage of the George Floyd Act. It's a police accountability act of sorts in the U.S. Congress. And Congresswoman Budzinski talking about what that could look like.
Well, I think what we need is justice and accountability in this case. I think what you're seeing is local officials have done a good job of expediting the release of the body cam footage. Charges against this police officer. I think now we're at a place where we need to do some investigations into how this police officer actually got on the police force and some hard questions related to that. So I think that this is a conversation, the way I look at it, it's in the very beginning stages. But at the end of it, I want to do everything I can to partner with local, state, and federal officials. As you know, the DOJ has also opened an investigation in this case. So anything I can be doing to help ensure that there will be justice and accountability for Sonya. Yes, we need to be doing more as it relates to police training. I think one of the pieces of legislation I've actually been very focused on in the House is around de-escalation. I think in this case in particular, you could see the need for more and additional de-escalation training. But I think we need to be partnering with law enforcement to make sure that they're getting the skills training that they need. Obviously I don't support things like no-knock warrants, chokeholds. Those are things that were in the George Floyd bill. So I think we need to be doing more, and I'm, very obviously supportive of those efforts.
So Congresswoman Budzinski being asked about those particular issues in the aftermath of the Sonya Massey shooting, and even President Donald Trump being asked about it as well. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, waking you up each and every morning with things you need to know to get your day going, and hopefully you're enjoying it. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell each and every weekday morning. Don't forget, we're going to be on the ground in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, so for extra updates, be sure to follow along. America's Talking Network on YouTube. Get the Center Squares newsletter from Illinois, and get the national newsletter as well. And be sure to get the podcast, Illinois in Focus Daily. So if you can't watch the live show, you can still get the podcast and follow along. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being here with Illinois in Focus Daily.